Hey, all my love from South Philly. Mwah. Peace out, pal.
Vinny from South Philly.
You're watching Vinny from South Philly.
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Vinny Presents. And today it is my pleasure to introduce you a fine actor. You may remember him most famously in The Sopranos. He was in The Irishman alongside with Robert Deniro. Great scenes, by the way. And also he's been in Law and Order and a host of other movies and shows. And he's a great cook too, I hear. On that note, please welcome to the show, Mr. Robert Funaro. Bobby, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Vinny from South Philly. Thank you for having me on your show. Very nice introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's really great to have you on. Always been a big fan. I was watching The Irishman again. Great film. He did a great job alongside of Bobby De Niro. And just fantastic, man. I really have a lot of admiration for your work. That's why I'm so glad to have you on today. So let's jump into it, brother. What's going on? Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, and what brought you to where you are right now.
In the beginning, you mean, right? In the beginning. In the beginning, my uncle was a Monsignor. God bless the Pope Francis also. And happy Easter to all your fans out there. Or Passover, I'm not sure. But he was a priest, and he started out in Howard Beach, and then he became a Monsignor. But he raised money for Catholic charities with a talent that he had, which was directing musicals. So my family would be a big event. You put on one musical per year to raise money for Catholic charities, as I said. And it became, from a little bit of a snowball, it became a big snowball. And he had some really big productions on Metropolitan Avenue on Christ the King Church. And The Music Man, Oklahoma, Chicago, Guys and Dolls, not Chicago, Guys and Dolls. All these shows, we would be a big event. We go see them, and I remember I was going to be in one of the productions. I forgot the name of it, but when this chorus girl dropped out, I said, "No, I don't want to do it." But he was let down about that because he wanted to direct me. So he was a director, and we got the bug. The family would be a big event, and that's how initially got the bug for acting. And then, of course, we role play and stuff like that on Grandma's house at Grandma Dudu in Brooklyn, 69th Street. We'd do these scenes and sketches and everything. And one thing led to another. And I went home and I spoke to my mom, and she said, "Why don't you try to do something you really like to do? You want to have a drama program?" And my mom, she encouraged me to join the drama program. And from there, then things happened. So much begin to work as an actor here and there, on and off and stuff. And that's how I basically got into it. Of course, then everyone, I knows the story about how I got my first professional job. And James, I believe, also was one of his first professional jobs, one of 5 of his first professional jobs on Streetcar Named Desire. There was a European tour. We toured Scandinavia, and that's how he did Mitch. And of course, he had his Broadway debut as Mitch with Alec Baldwin. I never got to do that production because Alec was, I wasn't really acting then, but professionally then. But that's how I got the bug, and we became fast friends. And that's how it happened later on. That's another story. He came down to Caroline's on Broadway where I was working. He found out through a friend of mine, Gordon Silva, that I was working there because Gordon went up to him, "If I was you, I'd get your friend Bobby Funaro a job on your show." And then Jimmy, of course, being who he was, and him knowing how tough it was for actors, it still is tough to get work. So any friends you have that can help you out, send the elevator down, so, as Jack Lemmon says. For other people, that's what James did for so many actors, for myself included. Came into Caroline's, down the steps. I was a manager at the time, and he just picked up where we left off, and he asked if I wanted to audition. And of course, he said at the same time, with the disclaimer, "I can't promise you anything." A friend of mine, I tried to get on the show. He didn't get on. And Jimmy had this great guilt thing going. And he really was, he'd feel bad if he couldn't, really pull through. But I landed a role, and that's how I started professionally. So Sopranos was really my first professional job on television and film.
Yeah, and that was. I mean, look, what a place to start too, because I mean, even today, I'm sure you would agree, like the revival, sort of the love for the Sopranos, and mob-based shows and movies is taken off in recent years. I'm not really sure why, but it's really kind of elevated, which is a good thing, obviously.
I think people are pulled into cheating the system in a way, like a bank robbery or being able to get away with murder, so to say. I mean, I've just been watching the Reacher series. Now, that's a series, Alan Ritchson, who's terrific, and some people that I know, Dom Labardazzi and Al Sapienza, were in season 2. It's a show that's it's kind of a vigilante show, even though it's based in special forces and stuff. I think we all have that inside us, that vigilante soul, or that soul that wants to get away with murder, or not have to work. And I guess that's what we Italians, we're very rebellious. We're very rebellious people. So, I mean, I'm not condoning it.
There might be my theories. There's a correlation between like social, like when society starts to get angry at the government, the viewage of like criminal drama start to go up, because you're living maybe vicariously through some of these characters. But
Yeah.
Robert, to kind of segue into that, now you did The Sopranos, like I mentioned earlier, you did Law and Order, you did a ton of stuff. I mean, you got a lot of credits. Now you're an accomplished cook, man. You got some good stuff going on. I seen something out there with Jersey blue crab gravy or sauce. We'll say gravy.
We did that. Yeah, hold on a second. Hold on, fans. Hold on. I'm gonna get my book. Cut 2. Homemade. Robert Funaro. There you go. 8 Soprano stories, 8 homemade recipes. Yeah, these are family recipes. They're easy to make. They're for families of 4 to 6 to 8 to 10. They're passed down. And I was glad to get it in there. Andrew Jedlicka, my business manager, it was his idea to do a book based on my postings and the amount of followers I received from COVID, because I was inside taking care of my mom, God rest her soul, and we had nothing else to do but cook and gain like 60 pounds. And that's what I did. I lost it, but so he said, why don't you do a cookbook? And I said, another actor doing a cookbook. You got Stanley Tucci. Why not give it a shot? But why don't you bookend it? I told Andrew, I'll tell you what, I'll do 8 stories, 8 episodes. I'll take 8 episodes and I'll talk about my experience of how I got on the show, which I spoke about to you about with James. And then after I do that, I'll start it with a recipe and then talk about the episode. And we got together and we chose the episodes, members only being what I think it was my best episode on the show, with the if you saw that in season 6, episode 1, when I wanted to get out and Tony Soprano wouldn't let me out, and I chose Mama's Sunday gravy, baked ziti / Sunday gravy, because the Sunday gravy, you don't need to make the baked ziti. The Sunday sauce, gravy, whatever you want to call it, Sunday sauce. I call it sauce or gravy, both. And to kind of give it a crescendo, and that's how it happened. So we're doing this, Barnes & Noble in Brick, New Jersey on the 27th, and Chico and Sons, the best sandwich shop close to Philadelphia. Meet a lot of Philadelphia Eagle fans in there. They come for the heroes. The Eugene is delicious. The pie oh my, the Omerta, so he's got a great sub shop. Carol does a great job at Chico, and it's wonderful to go to on Tilton Road in Northfield, New Jersey. We'll be there on the 26th at 12 p.m. What else can I say?
Fantastic. I'm just want to give them a quick little summary of some of these recipes you have here. Jersey blue crab sauce with thin linguine, Sister Anne's broccoli with rigatoni, chicken parm with penne vodka, Sister Linda's Italian rice balls, Nick Fury's chicken, Grandma's oven roasted chicken with potatoes and onions, peas and macaroni, and as you mentioned, Mama Funaro's Sunday sauce with baked ziti. Listen, I'm hungry just talking about this.
All these recipes, they're common recipes, but they're good if they're made. Simple as simplicity is what we all work for, even as actors. And so these recipes, I'm glad to have placed them in the book, so later generations could probably take a look at it and learn from it. And also, I think it works a twofold purpose of I think it's helpful to actors also. I've said this before in some podcasts and discussions because I talk about my experience of being on the show, not being so experienced, and what happened to me when I was cast as Ralph Cifaretto, Joe Pantaleone's role. And I speak about, I don't want to give you a spoiler alert. I speak about that in the book and how I had to adjust to become Eugene, and how I was fortunately blessed to remain on the show even after, I wouldn't say the switch. It was more or less a switch. And you can read about it in the book, but a lot of things that I went through, even in the members only, is very helpful, I think, to actors.
Yeah, and you're quoted as saying that true fulfillment is in the kitchen, which I agree, man. I think growing up, same background. My parents are from Calabria. I was raised with watching my mother make the Sunday gravy or sauce, and I just thought you either have it or you don't in you. It's an instinct, and I truly love cooking, and I love the almost supernatural experience that goes along with all of it.
Like Mom said, I say it in the book, when you cook something, cook it with love in your heart. Don't do it out of spite or, even relationships, or because it's never going to come out of, it's never going to taste good if you're doing it without love in your heart, that you really want to do it, passionately do it.
But let's step back now. Let's get back to the acting, because I know a lot of viewers are probably curious. Obviously James Gandolfini was very helpful, gregarious guy by everyone's experience with him, and it's been pretty well documented. It's a shame we lost him so young. You mentioned Joe Pantoliano, who actually my dear friend Freddie Gano, who stars in my first short that I just put out. He's very good friends with him, and actually did the in crowd with him back in the day.
I want to check that out. Sure, you're gonna send me the link to check that out.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, I mean, just great, tremendous actors from The Sopranos. Was there anything that you regret, maybe, that you wish you could have done, or is there anything more about that whole series? Or you must have learned a ton of stuff being on set with all those people. But is there anything, you're looking back, maybe you wish might have been a little bit different?
I mean, sometimes it's like jumping from a parachute. Sometimes that first time is the best time, and then as you think about it, it could get a little bit dodgy in the sense of hitting the right things. I think it works for you too. It kind of worked for me, not having so much experience, but at the same time, TV and film, I come from a play background doing theater. Yeah, and after the show is over, get your applause. But being on set, no one really comes and pats you on the back. You kind of like, you gotta please the inside of yourself, especially on set. You don't get the applause, so it's kind of weird, and a director could love your work, but they don't want to. Sometimes they'll say, yeah, that was great. A lot of times you just leave you alone because they know that could really affect the next scene or something like that. You don't want to get too caught. I don't know. It's a strange medium. I wish I would have known, if, like you say, looking back, to be less critical of myself. Do you know what I mean? Because you have a tendency to be very critical early on when you're on TV, I think, in film. I look like that. What am I doing? I had a tendency not even to want to watch myself. I wouldn't watch myself on Sundays and stuff like that. And then, of course, there were times that you may not even make the scene, and you tell everybody, hey, I'm going to be in the show this week, and then they cut you out of the show. So I stopped doing that, because it doesn't work. In the editing, it could not really be a big scene or whatever. It wasn't important. So they clip you. So there were things I wish I'd have known already. But I think the biggest thing is to really leave yourself alone and just be quiet, because film acting is just watching and taking your time. Don't rush it. It's like life. It's like life. It's like Michael Caine said, it's like a laser beam, and the camera sees everything. It sees when you're overacting, when you're underacting, but just listening and being still. These are things I wish I would have known, and I had to learn as I went along. And that's some of the things, Vinny.
Yeah, and I can I could definitely sympathize with what you said as far as don't tell people like you're in this scene, that scene. I was in Rocky. I did 2 scenes in Rocky Balboa with Stallone, and I never made it to the final cut. So, and the whole year I'm bragging, so I learned the hard way.
Omerta.
The actors will merit that. Listen, that sounds like the title of a good book right there. This movie with Robert De Niro I brought up earlier with The Irishman. Tell us how that was. How was the experience working around some of those actors and just being on set? Did you pick up anything, any bit of experience that was like a wow moment?
Well, the thing about working with Marty Scorcese, a friend of mine, Armin Gara, who was in Vinyl with me, and had worked with Marty prior to Vinyl, and he was cast as Galasso, one of the main bosses, one of the character. Never made it that show. And, Armin said to me that once you get into the family, I played beside him, and it was a good role. But he said, once you get into the family, Marty's family, he'll use you again. Some directors like to keep it in the family. Marty Scorsese is like that. So the audition really went well. And when I landed the role, people said, I auditioned with the role of Johnny Friendly Lounge. I auditioned, and that's what Marty does and De Niro does. They use one role to kind of sort you out with that role, and then they call you back. But in my case, they had it really came down to the final countdown to who they're going to cast as Johnny, and Marty cast me, which was great. And so from then on, working on that Irishman was just such a gift. I really miss it because Marty is like, someone described it as him being like a painter, like Da Vinci, and he liked to keep all the colors. So we would come down some days and not work, but he just wanted to have you available. If he got the idea, I need that little bit of the little black there, a little bit of light shade of gray there, he would use you in the scene. So, and that happened one time on Irishman. Getting onto the set with Robert De Niro, of course, you try to maintain your level. Like James Gandolfini said to me, if you don't really want to act with Robert De Niro or Marlon Brando, maybe not Marlon Brando, because even Marlon Brando or Matthew Broderick or any great actor, then get out of the business now, because then you don't feel you're just as good. You can bring as much humanity to a role as any other human being can. He said, to get out then, because you got to have confidence in yourself. And so with that, him speaking that, and then knowing someone who knew Richard, who knew Bobby De Niro, Richard Bright, who played Al Neri, he was a mentor to me. I kind of broke the ice with Richard because he passed away in 2006, and I spoke to Bobby to break the ice because we were friends, and I think it helps to. Some directors like to get the actors together, Sidney Lumet, for 5 months and rehearse the role. Even Mike Lee, who did Hard Truths, the Academy-nominated film, at least for actress, he likes to rehearse actors and then come up with the story. So these are good things. So I needed to break the ice. So I broke the ice with knowing Richard and Retanya Alda, who was in A Deer Hunter with Bobby De Niro. She played the wife of John Hurt, and so I knew people. So I broke the ice, and we were like my friend. And what do you learn from? You really don't learn much. Is that he's really a quiet guy. He's very intense actor, but it worked out. But I did have a great feeling that, wow, I just worked with was well, going home. You know what I mean? You pinch yourself. Wow, I just did work with a genius actor. So I was really proud to work again with him, or that first time to work with Robert De Niro. And then of course I did audition for Alto Nights, which was called Wise Guys, but I didn't land that role. I did go in to see Barry Levinson and but again, they brought me in for a role that was basically cast already. And they kind of changed stream. Like it kind of throws you off a little bit, but you got to get used to it. The casting director said, well, we're not really bringing you in for that role. We're bringing you in for another role. And then you've got to adjust, you know. It's hard for an actor because we get into patterns and we want to be comfortable. So we want to know the lines. We want to know all the time. Sometimes not knowing is better, but it takes time and training to reach that point, which people don't realize. You really can't speed the plow, so to say, if I quote David Mamet, that can't be, it has to be experienced.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, it's, you never know with these things, even with some a little bit of familiarity. I mean, it's a crapshoot, even I guess at any level. But I like the fact that I like the idea of long rehearsals, of getting to know your co-stars or co-workers, you know, and the familiarity, because it does add to the whole.
Yeah, I like rehearsal, but you know, in TV and film, there really is very little rehearsal. You bring the role and you let it happen, and you don't give it on the wide shot. You got to give it on the medium shot or the close up. So you kind of ladder up, so to say. So it's another technical medium, but in theater, of course, you get the benefit of repeating it the next day and kind of going home, looking at your notes and making, you have the opportunity to make adjustments, but the opportunity to make adjustments is a little bit quicker when you're on the film set. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit, but you know, the thing about that is that everybody wants to be as comfortable as they can be, but sometimes being uncomfortable is the best place you can be, because great things happen in those moments, you know. But you have to be in an environment, Vinny, that's conducive for that. You're not going to find that environment, I believe, on a Law and Order, you know, because they're going to bang it out. And it's like Allentown, you know, Billy Joel. Now we live in here in Allen. You know, that's what they're, but you'll find it on sets like Martin Scorsese's set, because he's open and he just wants, okay, do it, just let it go, and, you know, just do it in your own words, and, you know, it gives you that freedom to be spontaneous, because that's what it's all about. Now, spontaneity is becoming more and more popular because there's a lot of directors, like the director of Honora, you know, does a lot of improv, and he works with a lot of amateurs. And it's very spontaneous. Sean Baker, it's very spontaneous, very good stuff. So there's no really one right, but it's coming more and more apparent that people on Instagram and are kind of broadening their aspects. In a way, it's like Randall says, a lot of people could be great actors, but it's just a question of knowing that, having somewhat of a getting of experience. You know what I mean? You might be very good at cooking, you never even knew, you know, and that's been proven in terms of like guys like Dennis Farina, who was a policeman. He was a policeman. He became, on the Chicago series, Crime Story became, but he started small. If you watch his role in which one, with Thief, he played one of the henchmen in Thief, which was a great film for any actors out there. James Caan's performance in that film is tremendous.
You could probably even say Frank Vincent also. I mean, he started out with a lot of small kind of extra roles, little one-liners. He was in Wise Guys with DeVito, Piscopo. You know, he started out small.
You got to start somewhere. You know, that's what Joey Pants always said to me, you know, because of my role as Eugene. It was just, you know, I don't know who he is and stuff. And, you know, Joey would always say, you know, you got to start somewhere. And it's very true.
Now, Bobby, we're just going to mention again to the audience, if you watch this, please, again, April 26th, he'll be over there at Chico and Sons at 1620 Tilton Road in Northfield, New Jersey.
Buy a book,
or hoagie if you're from Philly. If you know what a hero is.
That's right. You got a hoagie. You're right, Vinny. The hoagie thing is big in Philly. Go ahead.
If you're on this side, if you're on this side of the country, it's hoagie. If you're on the other side of the country, it's. But that's going to be from from noon to 2 on April 26th. Chico and Sons. The 27th, the very next day, because this guy doesn't stop over here. Sunday, 11 to 1. He'll be at Barnes and Nobles over at the 44 Brick Plaza in Brick, New Jersey. And then, of course, the wonderful Paisan Con. It's coming up May 10th, Saturday. He'll be there 10 to 7 at Paisan Con over there in East Rutherford.
29 too. I'm going to be there Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, okay.
Paisan Con. Not only me, 7 other Sopranos, Federico, Vinny Curatola, Johnny Sack, Dan Grimaldi, Jason Serbone, Jackie Jr.
Yeah, Sophia Milos.
Yeah, a lot of actors, a lot of macaroni be flying around.
All right. Well, listen, any last words, recommendations, anybody who's just starting out in business, anything you would recommend to some of these guys who are just cutting their teeth in the business?
Yeah, I mean, definitely try to do as much as you can, even if it's a small role, even if it's an extra role, to get an understanding. And you'll say, well, geez, I don't like to do this extra stuff, but I really would like to, work on a regular role. So maybe, a lot of the colleges, they have these film programs, Columbia film program, NYU film program, and people don't realize that you can actually register your picture and your resume, even if you don't have a big resume. You make something up, because it's a lie that tells the truth. And you might be getting to a student production. Sean Baker started in NYU, and you get with a director or a person who really likes you as a person and says, I want you to come back to do something else. So that's a great thing, to register yourself online with these different places, colleges, campuses that have film programs. So that's a great suggestion. And what else can I say? Just, it's a little bit tougher now. So, but just to have patience. That's the biggest thing, is that wait it out. And I think the big thing for me was I wanted everything to all quick and easy and just fast. And there's no really shortcuts. You might be lucky enough to get on a great film. You can be working with Robert De Niro, but I promise you, and I guarantee you, that I'll see you in a workshop or a class wanting to know more about what the craft of acting is about. And I've seen it many times in workshops that I had been in, the Win Handman studio on 57th Street, who trained some brilliant actors, Robert Duvall, Christopher Walken, Denzel Washington. A lot of actors that have done these, they come back to the workshop because they felt they needed more training. So
speaking to a lot of actors, on this podcast, as well as just and people that I know personally, they all say the same thing. It's a lot of hard work, continuously, obsessively honing your craft. And as the cliche so appropriately says, there's no shortcuts, and good things take time.
Path of least resistance is easy, Vinny. The path, that's easy, but it's a narrow road that you're going to work on, but it's well worth it once you get there. It's like when you're training in the gym. If without the resistance, I tell a friend, without the resistance, it's ridiculous. You got to have some resistance. You have to have an uphill climb, because you appreciate it when you get to the top and you're looking down.
So before we go, please let everyone know where they can find you and that wonderful cookbook.
Instagram. I'm on Instagram, Robert Funaro, underneath / on the bottom line, whatever that is, underline Funaro on Instagram. Friend me. Also, you can find Homemade by Robert Funaro on Amazon. Okay. Also, a film that I was in called Critical Acclaim. We didn't talk about that, but it's okay. That's on Amazon also. Critical Acclaim, the movie. Great little spiritually based film about a man who gets a bad review. A director gets a bad review, and he kind of loses it, but he finds himself getting closer to God in the end, and it saves his life basically. So
I think that might be a good little reason to get you back on. Maybe next time we talk to you, you can get into that a little bit more, because it's been a great pleasure. And those that are watching, please make sure that you look in the description box. I'll make sure I have links to everything. This way you can check out Bobby. Make sure you follow him on Instagram, all social media. Support him by purchasing the book. And so again, folks, thanks again for watching Vinny Presents. Our guest has been the wonderful Bobby Funaro. We can't wait to have you back on, talk more about all your talented works. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you very much. From South Philly.
See you next time.